My name is Sam Houston. I already commanded men, lost brothers, made treaties, and buried hopes. But in all my journey through this cruel and endless Texas, nothing made me more marked than what I saw in September 1847, in a damn railway that cut the desert between San Elizario and Presidio del Norte. The sun burned without mercy, and the air shaved above the tracks as if hell itself breathed around. I rode with two men, routine inspection commissioned by engineers from the Republic. A new extension, they say, to connect the gold from New Mexico to Austin's pulsating heart. But that excerpt, it was not on any map. Still, there were the tracks, smooth, dark, shining like vipers in the sun, extended to nothing. We stop when we hear the whistle. It was long, serious, unlike any locomotive I've ever heard. The horses packed with fear. And then I saw him. It appeared in a cloud of dust that did not come from the desert, but of his own. A black train, with peeled painting and number 13 to force in the bodywork, as if scratched by claws. The driver projected the window like a skeletal corpse, skin-stretched skin, wearing a loud hat for such thin head. That line. "It's not ready," said my lieutenant, pulling the rifle. But the train did not stop. It just decreased the march. And then I realized something that froze my blood: the passengers in the wagons. Empty faces. No, not even that there were no eyes. Only deep cavities, as if the soul had been sucked and the body remains like shell. Some beat his hands in the window, but without strength, as if pleading something they didn't even remember anymore. And then I saw the final wagon. It was different from others. Sealed, without windows. But breathed. The metal inflamed, contracted. As if it had lungs. Or something locked inside, waiting. The train stopped. The driver stared at me. 200 years ago I have this route, he said, with a voice that seemed to get out of grave. And still the last passenger. That's when he pointed to me. I didn't answer. His finger followed up, trembling like a dry branch in the wind, but firm in the destination, my chest. Behind me, I heard the nervous whisper of my men. One of them murmured a prayer. The other just crawled the rifle, even though I knew, at the bottom of my chest, what a bullet would make a difference at that moment. The driver descended from the train with the slowness of the dead. Each step that stepped ranges like rotten wood, though it was iron. The feet beat with huge weight, and when he reached the earth, the surrounding sand darkened as if his presence sucks the light of the world. He approached me with calm, unhurried footsteps, his back eyes hidden under the hat flap. "You heard the whistle," he said. "This is enough." "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice firm. I was a man. Captain Jeremiah Rusk of the Cumberland Railway Company. But that was long before Texas was born. Long before the war that took my bones and left me only the mission. He extended a piece of thick, yellowish paper with fire marks on the edges. When I opened it, it was a list. A long list of names written in faded black ink. Some scratched. Still others. At the end of the list, the last name was not written. It was a dark, pulsating spot, as if the paint still moved. I looked at her too long. "Are you the one who chooses, or is the train?" I asked. The driver smiled. Or at least it seemed to smile. The skin cracked in the corners of the mouth, letting you see thin teeth as nails. He replied, "It's time who chooses. The train only collects what was forgotten." My men were already on horseback, ready to escape, but they knew that leaving without me would be betraying their own destination. Even so, I screamed to run. No one ran. Even the animals looked frozen, as if the ground had become thick, sticky, impossible to escape. The train sighed. "I swear on everything that is sacred," he sighed. The sound was not metallic or boiler, it was human. Like someone about to pass out. The sealed wagon, at the end of the composition, swelling and withering more strongly. Something inside hit. Rhythmic. Like a heart. It was then that we heard the first scream. He came from inside one of the open wagons, where the eyes without eyes remained real estate. One of them, a woman in a white dress, gray skin and sewn mouth, arched her back in ringing, tearing the strands that sealed her. The sound was in pain, but also of liberation. Or madness? Maybe both. Others began to squirm. Some hit the windows tightly. A man without jaw was trying to stick his head through the door crack. And all of them, everyone pointed to me. As if they recognized me. They remember, Jeremiah whispered. At the moment before the end, everyone remembers what they were. And what they lost. What do you want from me? He didn't answer. It just reached out, a dry, darkened palm as aged leather. A silent invitation to climb. Or a warrant. For a moment, I was taken over a strange impulse. A desire to accept. To find out. Something in the beat of that sealed wagon called me, something that spoke to me without words. I saw memories that weren't mine. A battlefield covered with mist. A woman screaming for me with a son in his arms. A river of blood running between broken tracks. I shook my head, trying to get rid of the numbness. You're confusing me with another, driver. My time is not over yet. He got closer. So close that I smelled the smell of rust and dead coal. And then, for the first time, I saw your eyes. They were like black holes. They do not reflect light, nor show emotion. Just pull. Bring you into them. And I felt it was going to fall. That's when my horse reconciled, with a sharp and fierce cry, breaking the spell. The men acted. One of them shot instinct. The shot hit the floor next to the driver, who didn't even win. But it was enough. Jeremiah retreated. He rose like smoke, his feet floating for a moment. He returned to the train. Not today, he said, before climbing again. But soon. The whistle sounded a second time. Higher. Deeper. The train began to retreat without turning, just going back, as if the time went on reverse. And soon disappeared, swallowed by the desert dust. We stayed there. The air has warmed again. The floor stopped shaking. But in me, something had changed. Something had been marked. In the following days, I tried to convince myself that it had been a hallucination caused by heat, dust, the loneliness that sometimes descends over the border men as a heavy and sickly veil. My companions also avoided the subject. We returned to the nearest fort in silence, without words, like men who saw too much and know that no one would believe if they told. But something came back with me. Something that clung to my shadow, perhaps. Or at the bottom of my eyes. On the first night, I dreamed of the train. The same whistle, but now coming from inside my head. I was lying down while listening to the steam sound dragging on the corners of the room like a snake. When I looked at the window, I saw the locomotive stopped outside the inn, its black wagon serpenting until it disappears in the high bush. But there was something different. The sealed wagon now had a slit. And from the inside, a rude and pulsating light escaped like that of an open heart, throbbing in the dark. I saw shadows move behind the crack. I saw hands. I saw faces that were not faces. The driver was waiting for me on the platform. And behind him, the passengers looked at me. Everyone had my face. I woke up sweaty, with tremendous hands, the soaked sheets and the smell of smoke impregnated in the wood. No one else in the accommodation had seen or felt anything. But the feeling was with me all day, glued to the skin as grease. In the following days, wherever I go, villages, paths, ranches, heard stories. Always starting the same way. I saw lights on the tracks, but there was no rail. I heard a whistle where there was only bush. I dreamed of a train standing in my backyard, and someone inside called me. And then the disappearance began. An old farmer south of the Como River disappeared without traces, his house still with the kettle on fire and the dogs without reaction, as if they had been hypnotized. A boy in San Angelo disappeared in the middle of the night, his mother swearing that he saw him leaving the front door in a trance, muttering, "He called me." The man from the loud hat. I started following these clues. It was all I had. As if being pulled to something bigger, something that happened before I was born and would continue after I left. An old priest, in a forgotten village named La Muerte Vieja, told me among goals of mezcal and half-circled eyes that he had heard of that train. Some say he appears where there was mourning without grave. Where the soul did not have landing. They say it's not a train of our time, nor the other. It is a transport between worlds, but something cursed him. And now he has been lost on the route. It runs in circles, eternally, looking for who was left out. And the driver? I asked. Rusk? The priest swung his head slowly. Jeremiah Rusk was convicted. Legend has it that he diverted the railway route for greed, sent men to work in a sacred valley to the ancients. They dug bones that should remain buried. Everyone died there. Less him. But the train was consumed. And he, with him. The priest looked at me like one weighs a burden before surrendering him to another. And now he reached the forgotten. Those that time set aside. People who should no longer walk here, but still go. Or people like you. How do I? He nodded. Marked by something that the world of the living does not understand. You saw the wagon. What pulsates? That is a nodule of time. An open wound. And you have already put your finger at it, Sam Houston. That night, I didn't sleep. I was sitting on the edge of the fire, the revolver in hand, as if it could protect my soul. But the truth is that it was late. Because the train came back. Not in a dream. The next morning, riding to Marfa, I spotted a clearing that didn't exist the day before. There, crossing the reverse like a black serpent of steel and soot, were the rails. And about them, the train. But there was something different this time. He didn't whistle. It didn't move. It was still. As who expects? As I approached, I saw that the driver was not ahead. The cabin was empty. And even more, the sealed car was now open. Inside, an iron ladder led to a deep hole, and from there, a sound. A call. It was my name. Whispered in dozens of voices. Some known. Other children. Others who remembered things I never lived, but somehow belonged to me. I backed away. My horse stood up and didn't want to get closer anymore. And at that moment, I understood, the train didn't just want to take the dead. He wanted to fill the empty spaces of his own existence. He wanted those who had pending time over time. Open scars. Broken souls. He wanted to remember what the world tried to forget. And maybe. I wanted to use me for that. I tried to turn the horse, flee that place, let the tracks rot alone in the desert. But the more I rode, the more the landscapes began to repeat. The stones. The shrubs. The clouds in the sky, immovable, as if attached to a painted glass. The train had not moved, but I was walking in circles. The third time I went through the same pie, marked with 3 cuts on the trunk like animal claws, I was sure. It was stuck. Not physically, but in time. I jumped off the horse and advanced on foot through the sturged sand. The heat didn't seem to come from the sun anymore, but from the floor. Of the iron buried on the tracks. From the train standing like a choked corpse in a nightmare that could not die. The sealed wagon now lay with its wide open door, expelling a warm, nauseating breath, and a reddish shine that pulsed like living flesh. I approached. The voices called louder. Now recognizable. The first was Eliza's, my first wife, killed in Tennessee for fever, calling me how I was lying on the porch on autumn nights. Then I heard Margaret's, my mother. Whispering my name as when I tried to calm me down the crises of childhood fear after my father disappears in the woods. And then I heard my own. An old whisper. Weak. As if I were already inside the train and I was calling me to find me. As if the part of me that had already been forgotten was inside. At the open door of the wagon were nail marks. Recent scratches. As if someone tried to leave, do not enter. But I couldn't resist. I stepped on the first stairs. The iron was hot. Hot as newly loose blood. And then I entered. Inside the wagon was only dark and heat. And a circular iron platform in the center, with chains that descended from the ceiling to the sides. And in the middle of that, the heart of the train. It was something indescribable. Alive. Meaty throbbed. As if time itself had rotted in a single pulsating organ. And around him, bodies. Not dead. not alive. Stops. As if waiting. Everyone had my face. Some young people. Other old ones. Some dresses with costumes I didn't recognize, clothes that may not have been created yet. But everyone was me. And everyone stared at me with a desperate, silent, supplicant look. I saw one of me with a cut throat. Another with fire marks on the face. One used Confederated uniform, something I never put in. Another used indigenous skin. One was tied. Another whispered prayers. The train doesn't travel in space, said one of the versions of me. He travels in what was forgotten. I approached the heart. He pulsed stronger and stronger. Each beat brought me memories that were not mine, but now they were. I fought in a European trench. I was hanged on a tree near Waco. I died in a river that did not exist on the map. I started to cry. Because I realized that what pulled was not just a train. It was the time that bleeds. The time of those the world wanted to erase. The train collected all the EUs that could have existed. All the paths I didn't follow. All errors not made or made in distant worlds. And the driver, he was not just a guide. He was the guardian of unfulfilled destination. A voice whispered behind me. You arrived early, Sam Houston. But the train already had it. I turned over. Jeremiah Rust was there, without shadow, standing at the entrance of the wagon. The back eyes, now pouring black tears that dripped on thick strands. His body trembled. The top hat fell into pieces. I tried to keep him on the tracks, he whispered. But the train thinks for itself. He feels the forgotten. And you have many. I knelt, exhausted, unable to keep myself standing. I started to forget simple things. The name of my horse. My father's face. The smell of the river where I took my first bloodbath. I don't belong here. I murmured. Not yet. Still, Jeremiah repeated. Time will want to take you. But there is another way. Extended me something. A small stone carved with number 13. A talisman. A symbol. A burden. As you carry it, you'll see the train. Always. In a dream. In echo. But he will not be able to take him. Not yet. I extended my hand. I touched the stone. And the train shouted. A whistle crossed the desert, the heavens, the bones. I was thrown back, out of the wagon. I rolled in the sand. When I got up, the train slowly disappeared as steam crumbling in the sun. In my hands, the stone was still throbbing. And on the horizon, the rails had gone. Since that day, I carry the stone with me. Not as a symbol. Not as a memory. But as a curse. The number 13 carved in it never disappeared. On the contrary, it seems deeper, more alive, as if the stone has continued to be carved by invisible hands while sleeping. And I dream. Every night. Without rest. The train always comes back. In different landscapes. In times I do not recognize. Sometimes I'm in cotton fields under the moon. Sometimes, in the middle of a large city, surrounded by houses that shine with not lamp. But the train is there. Stopped. Waiting. And it's always me who he calls. My men, on that cursed afternoon in the desert, tried to move on. Pretend the train never came. One of them disappeared 2 months later, entering the bush to hunt and never coming back. The other went crazy in Comanche Springs. He was found sitting on the railways of a still unfinished railroad, saying that time was opening inside. I continued riding for Texas, as I ordered my duty, but with each village that crossed, heard whispers. The train passed here. A child said he spoke to a top hat man. A woman was seen entering an invisible wagon. Everyone saw. Everyone forgot. Less me. And sometimes, on rain nights, the sealed wagon appears in me. I say that with shame. With pain. But it is the truth. According to my chest burning, as if beating two rhythms, a human and another stranger, metallic, heavy. As if the heart of the train, the one who pulsates inside the condemned machine, had left a copy in me. Margaret, my second wife, once leaned against my chest and walked away, scared. "Looks, a drum," he said. "A drum beating under the earth." I didn't say anything. Just smiles. And I continued living. If you can call life this constant waiting for a whistle that never announces, but always feels, like thunder in the bowels. Today, I write these words as confession. As a warning. Because yesterday, for the first time in years, the stone warmed. And in the dawn sky, I saw a black line cross the firmament without noise, but with the clear smell of burnt coal. The train is coming back. And he doesn't go back. Maybe you don't want me anymore. Maybe you want you. Because deep down, he does not take only those who are lost. He takes perhaps too much. Who could not forget? And now that you know this story, you also heard the whistle. The next name on the list may be forming now. Right there. At the end. At the point where the ink still pulsates. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel right now to hear more amazing reports lived by Sam Houston at the Texas borders, facing the supernatural, the forgotten, and the impossible. Activate the bell of notifications so as not to lose next trips for the unknown, and share with someone you think would have the courage to face the cursed train. New stories every week. And remember, not every railroad takes home. Some take to hell.